Hey there, this is K4A, Knowledge for All educational videos and tutorials. Today I will try to explain how and when to use GML visual block, which is called create instance. I have already made this video but deleted it because it was too long, so let's try to do it a little bit faster. So far in our game we have a simple player which is represented with white square, which can go left and right, up and down, collect these yellow coins and lose its health by colliding with those red spike enemies, go to level 2 after touching this door, and so on. So very simple game prototype. And today I will try to explain this block, which is very important and you will use it lots of times in your games, and not sure how I haven't explained it before, and it is connected to OBJs, to sprites and so on. So I have explained all of those concepts earlier in my GameMaker Studio 2, how to playlist, how to create sprite, how to create object, but some of those I will have to run through again today because I will have to create some kind of objects from the scratch. First of all, let's see what are instances and what are objects in GameMaker and most of the game engines. So some of those stuff which I explain here is the same in for example Unity, Unreal, maybe to same in Scratch to some extent, but don't take it all as granted. Some kind of game engines differ between themselves, and that is good, but also you have to be careful. Some basic concepts are the same, and those basic concepts are very important. So in our game, every time you want to have some interactive thing on your scene, like player, enemy, and coin or something like that, you have to create object for it. That component, that thing is called object, and it can have image which is called sprite in it, and code most of the time, but sometimes it will be invisible without sprite, without some complex code or whatever. So objects can differ between themselves, and the problem with objects is for beginners that they mix up objects and instances, and the most easiest way to understand that is to think about objects as cookie cutters. So this metal thing is cookie cutter, is my object, and when I want to make same objects in my game, I create cookies with this obj cutter, and those cookies are called instances. So in simplest way, obj is cookie cutter and instances are cookies. Cookies are created by object by cookie cutter, not vice versa, and instances can differ. For example, I can make this cookie with vanilla taste, the other with strawberry, the third one with chocolate, and so on. So the object is cookie cutter, which creates same instances, but you can change them later. So think about it, and this picture, this image can explain you how to create different objects and different instances. For example, this Christmas tree can be our player object, and you create only one instance of it on the screen, but these other objects, these other cookie cutters can be enemies, can be coins, and so on. So you will create lots of those cookies on the screen. So that is a difference between object cookie cutter and instances cookies on the screen. 5 minutes in tutorial so far, so let's see that in action. In my game, for example, I want my player to be able to move left and right on the screen, which I have made before and it works, but I want him to be able also to create some kind of shapes, objects, instances on the screen, which are I don't know. They can be, for example, if you have played Bomberman game, those can be bombs, mines, landmines, or I don't know. In strategy game, you can click and create instance of some building, some troops, and so on. In my game, for example, I want to make my character plays a chicken which can move into the yard left and right and create eggs. So my player will, or it can be NPC player, which goes left and right and creates eggs. And I want to my player to do that when I press the button E. So when I press the button E, create egg on my screen. I want to do that. I want to have that in my game. So how to do it? First of all, let's go to OBJ player 2. That's our chicken on the screen, and let's find event which will say when the key E is pressed, key button key on my keyboard is pressed. You have a couple of different key events: key down, key pressed, and key up. In my case, I will use key pressed letters E, because I want my player to be able to press it one, create one egg, then if you want to create another one, press it again, and so on. If I use this key down, it will work like this: press and hold it and create as long as I hold it. So I can create 10, 100, and so as endless number of eggs as long as I'm holding my key down. I don't want to do that. I want to create eggs by pressing only once. So let me find, key pressed letters E. Okay, this is empty. This event is empty, and that is great. That's how event starts, empty. But I want to find the one I need, and that is the instance create instance block, drag and drop block, visual code, visual GML block, create instance first in first row, first from the left, the red one with light bulb, or whatever this represents, maybe some kind of head. Anyway, I will create it by click and dragging it into my event on my left. So that's it. It will do something, but not yet until we create here object which I want to create on the screen. I can use some from my objects which I have already made, like OBJ coin, OBJ spike, and so on, but for my game I want my player to create eggs on the screen, and maybe it doesn't make much sense for this game, but it will be good and fast example for our other blocks. So let's do it. If you have watched our tutorials previously, you know we need a sprite. So let's click on sprites folder, left click, then right click, create, and find the sprite. You can create it on other folders too, but I will create it in sprites. It makes most sense for me, and I will call it SPR egg. It makes again sense for me. If I want to use some kind of photo, some kind of image which I have from my desktop computer, from Google or so on, I can click on this import button, but I want to create it from scratch, so I will click on edit image, and now the image window to create images is open in GameMaker. You can create your pixel images here also. So I need to find some kind of circle. Yeah, here it is, ellipse tool. I will click on it. The color which I will be using it is white, also good for me. So I will click on the top left, maybe not very close to the edge, and drag, and yeah, it's empty. I don't know why. I have probably deleted ellipse tool field outline. Yeah, okay, no big deal. I can color it like this. So again, if it makes an empty outline, just click on this fill tool and pick a color you like and color it. And if you create it a little bit on your left or your right and not in the middle, just click on this pen image, and don't worry, as long as you drag, you can click and move it like, okay, I want it to the left, a little bit above, top, bottom, and so on. In my case, I want it somewhere here. No big deal, this is just a prototype, so this looks great for me. Okay, we have a sprite, we have an image, but I cannot click and drag image to the screen. Look at this. It will give me an error. This asset can only be applied to an asset layer, and you don't have asset layer selected. So this is not object yet. This is not interactive. I need to create objects. So let's go to workspace, objects, right click, create, find the object, here it is, and call it obj underscore egg or whatever you like. Again, the first was the image, the sprite tag, and the second is the object. Object is like a container, like a folder, which we hold this image, the code, the audio files, music, whatever we want to add into it. So it's like a more complex stuff. Sprite is just an image. It doesn't have interactions other than maybe animation, but this obj object has endless possibilities, endless features, and most of those are controlled by code. So as you can see here, no sprite, obj egg doesn't have any sprite, so I want to find the sprite egg, and that's it. I have my obj created. I will hit Ctrl S just to save my project, not to lose my data so far. Okay, so I have my obj, and how to create instances. So far we have learned you can create instances by clicking and dragging this obj egg or whatever obj. Just click from this objects folder from your asset browser on the left, click and drag and release into your scene, into your room. You click on from your workspace tab onto the room tab, and then it will open the room tab, and if it's room editor open on the left, click on the assets on the left, so you have the assets on the left and room on the right, and then drag from the assets from the left onto the right, and you can add as many those objects on the screen, or to be more precise, instances, cookies. So obj egg is my cookie cutter. I'm creating cookies by clicking and dragging, and those things on the screen now, those eggs are instances of obj egg. We will see that now also how GameMaker sees them. It's very important before I start to code, just to have that clear in your mind. That's why this tutorial takes so long. It will again be around 20 minutes, but this is very important concepts, and again it is used in other complex game engines like Unity, Unreal, and so on. So you have object, you have cookie cutter, and when you want to create some of those objects on the screen, you use that cookie cutter to cut cookies, copies, instances on the screen. What have I done here? If I click in now and create my test game, I see those instances on my screen in my game. They don't have any kind of interaction, but they were on my screen from the start. I don't want to do that. I want them to be created when the game is running. That is called in game development runtime. So I want to be able to create my objects, my instances runtime, when I press the button, when I press the mouse button, when something happens, and so on. So far these eggs looks great, but they are already on the screen. I don't want them now. I want them to be created when I press the button. How to do it? First of all, let's delete those eggs by clicking on them and pressing the delete button. So it's like that, or you can, I think, yeah, no. select more of those. Probably there is some kind of check button so I can select more than one, but nevertheless. Okay, but before deleting these last two, I want to show you something. When you click on the room tab, and when on the right, and when the room editor browser is open on the left, you can see that there is one window which is called Instances Layer Properties Room 1. So this window shows every instances which is on instances layer for room 1. We have learned before there are different layers. You can put instances only on this instance layer. You can turn it on and off by this. That is cool, but also you see them one by one here, all in this huge list, and that is also very, very important for your more complex game. But that is also very important to understand how GameMaker game engine sees those instances and objects on your screen. So if you have remember what we have done a few moments ago, clicking and dragging obj egg, you I hope you listen to me when I say obj egg will become instance. It will become copy of the cookie cutter. So obj egg is this metal shape, and when I drag and drop it into my screen, it becomes cookie. Cookie cutter cuts the cookie. So you can see that in GameMaker list instance layer properties, how GameMaker turned this obj egg into instance, and it gave some kind of ID, some kind of name to that instance. So this one obj egg instance is called instance 5E1111CDA4, and when I uncheck it here, it will hide and show. You can see how it disappears from the screen. And same goes with this one, which is also obj, because that's how its parent, how its cookie cutter was called, obj egg, here in my asset browser. So it's created from obj egg, but now it became instance 21B8DD5F. These strange numbers, don't worry, you don't have to remember them. The good thing is that the GameMaker engine remembers them for you, but you see how those two have different IDs, different names, and that's like in real world, like you have different people with different names and different ID numbers in their IDs. So you can have for example, two people having the same name, John Smith, like these two guys, obj egg, but this John Smith has ID number 5E11CDA4, and this John Smith from other town has 21BADD. So those are like same name but different IDs, and that's a good example also how to understand basic stuff on instances and objs. Okay, so far we have obj egg, we have sprite egg, but let's finally create some of that instances on our screen. We have created one event on our obj player. When the key press E, create instance, but so far we haven't said to GameMaker what instance to create, what object to use as cookie cutter. Again, if you see here, I have create instance, so why I have this object here? Because object is my cookie cutter. Which cookie cutter I want to use? In my case it will be obj egg. So I want to create instance from my obj egg when I press key E. So let's see that if it works just like this by default on my screen. So I will move my player left and right, and now I will press the button E on my keyboard. So take a look on the screen. yeah, it creates the egg, but the egg is created in the top left, and if I press key again, it creates it again, but I don't see the difference, and it's always in the top left. I don't want my egg instance to be in top left, and let's see why is that so. It's that so because that's by default x0, y0, and that's what I said to the GameMaker. Let me show that with this obj egg here. So for example, if I yeah, it should be here somewhere. I'm not sure where to find it. When I press, yeah, it has it here. I'm not sure where to change the x and y. It was earlier here in older GameMaker, but you can see that these coordinates here changing from minus, and yeah, like this. When I move my egg obj instance on the screen, you can see those coordinates here changed. So now it's 169, 659, and now is 111, 663. So let's see when I push it here in the top left. It's almost zero now because of my center pole. I will check that, but when I press the mouse, yeah, it works for mouse. So the top left corner, what I want to say, the top left corner of the screen is 0, 0. So that's why our egg is created in top left corner. I don't want to do that. I want my egg to be created here below my player. I want that to be X and Y to be connected to my player, not to the screen, not to the scene. So I want to click here on relative. I think it will work, so let's try it. So this relative means relative, I think, to the, yeah, relative to my player. So now I can go on the screen and lay my eggs. Also, it's still not very good because I want it, when I click here, look at the screen, it's more to the right, and I want it in the middle below my player, so like this. And you can create also one on top of each other, which isn't good, but so far so good. Okay, let's fix that. Again, as I just said, it's connected to how you create your images, and there is one thing here in your I have to zoom it. There is one very important not collision mask, sorry. There is one important spot point on your image. Every time you make image, GameMaker wants to know what will be the center of that image in terms of scaling, rotation, and so on. In my case, for this egg, by default, in top left right corner there is a drop down menu where you can choose that point, and you can see it in your image here in your top left corner. By default it's in top left, so top right corner menu says top left. If I look on my image, it is also here in my top left, and this is that point which I want to have it here in the middle of my image. Sometimes you will want it in your bottom like this. For example, for platformer games like Super Mario and so on, you will probably use this pivot point, the center point, in the bottom of your character. In my case, I want it in the middle, and again, there is a very fast way to do it by using this menu, middle, center, and it's more precise. So for example, I can say, okay, this is the middle, this is the middle. No, when you click middle center, it finds it faster and better. So let's see now how this egg will be created. It should be a little bit better now. Yeah, you can see now the center of it is created relative to my player, and it works great. So I can lay eggs as many as I want. Let's see just one more thing here. Sprite player, no, sprite player 2. They're using the same sprite, sorry. Yeah, I have already done that for my sprite players. It is middle center, so my sprite center point, pivot point is in the middle, and my sprite for the egg is in the middle. That is important if you want to create instance of egg object in the center. Sometimes you will want it to be created in the top left, like here for example, or middle bottom, or right, or so on. I want it in my middle center, so it works great for me. And let's see other features of this block. Yeah, half an hour, sorry guys, but this is very important block, and I cannot make it faster and easier than this. Layer instances, what does it mean? We have explained that earlier. In your room you have a couple of layers. The one for the background, I don't have any, so yeah, I have a black one, so it will turn it on and off if I press this eye icon, and all the instances are on the instances layer, so I can turn them off by pressing this eye icon or lock them with this. So that means if I want to create my layers, my instances or some other layer, for example, I can you have ability here to create new layers. You can create new background layer, new instances layer, new tiles, and so on. So for example, I can create new instance layer and rename it into, I don't know, enemies. No, eggs. Yeah, eggs. So for example, now when if I want my player to create instances of obj egg on specific layer, like layer eggs, I create that layer as instance layer, and I say here, okay, create instance in layer eggs. It can be useful for some of your games. For example, if you have I don't know, enemies layer, like you want to create all enemies on one layer, turn it on and off, or some kind of environment or buildings layers and so on. Relative, we have explained that relative is to your player, and you can also use here all of the stuff. For example, I can use instead of using x0 relative to my player, I think I can use x plus 10 maybe, no, x plus 40 to be visible. So now my egg will be created 40 pixels to the right when I press E, like this. Yeah. So because my sprite player is 64 pixels wide, I need to create at least 64 pixels to the right, like this. And you can also play with that, use it for your games. For example, I want to create like some kind of object which I can give to my, imagine this white square is one player and this brown door is second player, and I want my player white to be able to give something to player brown. So I have created that by create instance x plus 40, and it will look like my white square is giving something to brown square, like this. So you can use this on as many different scenarios as you want. I will use it to lay eggs below me. And the target is used when you use variables, like for example I can make variable var underscore eggs created, and to egg variable egg, so for example something like that, and I will store this instance ID which we have learned here. It will store yeah, okay, stop it. And yeah, I'm not sure why it's not showing. Yeah, because I don't have it here. X instance, yeah. So I can store some instances in some variable and use it for I don't know, so for some kind of countdown, deleting or whatever I need. I don't have anything on my mind, lucky for you for that, so we will use it maybe later in our game. So far so good. We have learned how to create objects, instances on the screen, and again try to think about this example only as intro for your games. So for example, if I want to create towers for my tower defense game, imagine these eggs are towers. So for example, I'm playing tower defense game and now I have tower created here and these are towers, and so for example like that. So you can create towers which will shoot on our enemies, or I can create obstacles for this green circle or whatever. So objects and instances are very important, and you will use them in everyday work in game development or application development. For example, as I said, tower defense, when you create towers, those are instances of tower objects. You can create them by clicking. I can instead of that can be a good exercise for you. Instead of using add event key press E, you can use add event mouse left pressed. So let's try no, this will be left pressed, click on the, yeah, I don't want to confuse it, but you can use mouse left press global left pressed or global left released to create these instances when you click on the screen. I will use that in some other video, but again I can use it for when I shoot bullets on my enemy. That's create instance of obj bullet. I can use it when I create enemies on my screens, for example when I spawn zombies. So that's spawn zombie obj instance on the screen when the time is up, when I press the button, when I press the mouse, whatever you like. Again, I'm not trying to confuse you. It sounds like that. You will see how this is all used in games in next videos, but it was this long because it's very important stuff. So play with this block, play with your objects, create other objects, other instances, and see how it goes. Also, I have connected this obj block to my key press because I wanted it to be simple and easy to see. So be careful if you put that into your step event. It will be created 30 times per second. So if I used step event here, it will be, my egg will be created 30 times per second, so I will have 30 eggs per second on my screen. So you have to be careful about that, but we will see that in next videos. So far so good. See you in next videos, and next videos will be about GameMaker 2.